You know, it doesn't matter how you get to this website, you should be able to participate. Google Translate is far from perfect yet, but it regularly wins awards for machine translation. So depending on the language, anything between sort of 80 and 90% effective. So that's the very basic functionality of Google Friend Connect. And how do you add that to your website? Well, again, very simple. Here's the joining gadget that we saw before. So because I've set it to check, it now thinks that's brilliant. But you'll see I can configure it very simply with just by clicking that color and allow me to pick a different color. If I know HTML codes, color codes, I can put them directly in there. And I can pick a font and I can set up some other bits and pieces. But then I hit generate HTML code, and what it'll do is give me a bit of code. Now this is longer than YouTube or the add this button that we saw before, because rather than iframing stuff, it's actually using JavaScript to generate some of this code. However, it's as easy as that. You don't have to be a programmer to make your website social. As soon as you cut and paste this code onto your website, that's it, done. People can now join your site. And in the moderate section, or the community data section, you're actually able to see my very popular website. You're able to see when people join, when people come in, how often they come back. And again, this is my personal page, which is why I've had to beg 15 people to join. But you've got all this data available, and if you want, you can download it in a CSV. You can start to process it. You can also use, there's a fully featured API. It's an extension of the Open Social API, which will allow you to actually request data from the back end and do a tighter integration. But before we have a look at that, I want to show you a couple more examples of some cool Friend Connect gadgets. So let me shut down some of these windows very quickly. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about before I go on to this. I'll come to it in a minute. Real-time search. But okay. Here is Guitar Universe. Now, you'll see I can join this site as before, up here. I can subscribe. We've got a newsletter gadget, so you can actually subscribe to newsletters very easily, and that will get taken care of. There'll be an interface within the management section that allows you to type up the newsletter, hit send. So I can join this site knowing that the site owner won't necessarily be able to access my email without my permission, but he can still contact me. The polls, I can sign in if I want to respond, or I can just see the responses here. So 9 responses, 10, 6, 7, and so on. What I'm going to do is join this website. I've already signed in on another profile, so it knows who I am. And I'm just going to say, join this site. One day I'll have that moustache. And what you can do on their first screen that they see once they join is actually give them a bunch of questions. Ask them if they want to sign up for the newsletter, and then ask them a bunch of questions that you'd like them to see. Now, there's a few good reasons for doing this. One is that, well, you'll just have polls on the website, and it'll give you a better understanding of what your users like. If everyone's favourite guitarist who comes to your site, or 90% of them love Eric Clapton or Jimi Hendrix, or one guitarist, that's a pretty clear indication that you need to be building more content around that topic, because that's what your users are interested in. Another more useful and more interesting thing is the fact that where are we? This featured content gadget. And again, every gadget that we're seeing here can be configured using the back end. This featured content gadget will take content from sites that you nominate. It could be this site itself, but in this case we're taking it from guitar.com. It will have a look at the answers that I've put into the poll, and it will tailor this content based on that. And that's pretty powerful, right? So it'll do a site restrict. For those of you who understand search really well, it'll do a site restrict for guitar.com, and then it'll feed the keywords as part of a site restrict into this and surface the results. It's just using the Ajax API and the public Friend Connect APIs to put the data together, but importantly, it's doing it for you. The other thing, and this is where it starts to get really, really interesting, because it's all about money. Yes, AdSense. How many people know about AdSense? Okay, most of you. For those of you who don't, I think I saw one hand not go up. It's ads by Google. There you go. So in exactly the same way that we run ads on search, publishers, website owners can sign up for Google AdSense. And just as we saw with the Friend Connect code, they'll get a block of code that they paste onto their websites and they run ads. Now, on a website, you'll use AdSense for content. And what this will do is scan the content of the page, find out what's on the page, and then run related ads. In this case, you can see pretty clearly guitars, because that's what the website's about. Now, if I start answering these polls, what's going to happen is it's going to pass the results of the poll back into the ad mixer. So once I say that I really like Gibson guitars, in fact, let's give it a go. It didn't work last time, but maybe it will this time. Which one's site settings?
Settings?
Second one, first one? This one.
First one, yeah.
Is that? No. Yes. Gibson. Fender. There we go. Save. And then hopefully, let's reload this a couple of times and see if it serves other things. Yeah, so. Again, I don't know if you guys can see this in the background, but it now says about Gibson guitars. So what it's done is actually read my poll data, and it's only taken a few seconds. Like I actually left this site, deleted all my personal data, so we could go through it from fresh this time. But as soon as people start answering those polls, it's going to start targeting ads much more effectively to you. And the more effective, the more targeted the advertisements are, the more likely people are to click. The more they click, the more money you make. Pretty straightforward. So the more related you can make your polls to the content of the website, the tighter the ads are going to be, the better the ads will, the more money. We've already said that. And then, of course, you've got all these other great features that you can roll in. One of my other favorites is actually the recommendation gadget. So we go back to gadgets here and hit sample site for recommendations. You guys will get the idea for this pretty quickly. But is there anything I haven't clicked? Yes. So pictures, it could be news stories, it could be individual pages. You'll see this recommended button. If you like what you see, sorry, back if you can't see that, you click recommend it. Once you've clicked it, I'm going to jump now. It goes into that. And so it says already recommended, and you can undo that from your preferences if you want. But again, as people answer these, you'll see that it builds up over time. So again, because this is a demo site, Japan Somewhere Street, people are all just clicking the top one because it's easy. So that's at the top. But as you go down, the San Francisco Night Scene actually isn't the second one, so people are taking time. But for a real site with real content, you're actually going to see people starting to recommend these features to their friends. You can choose to send that back to people on their networks. You can choose to surface it on the website itself. You can choose to email it out once a week and go, our most popular content this week has been, why not come back and have a look if you haven't already? There's a whole bunch of different ways you can use this data to encourage users to come back. Right, so that's the gadgets. All of these gadgets are available if you go to google.com/friendconnect, and then you click on gadgets, and you can just pick the ones you want, configure them, install them. If you want to make some money, pretty straightforward, click on the AdSense section. And what you'll do actually is you'll have to, so I've already configured mine. There used to be a unlink this account, but you'll be, if you haven't set it up yet, you'll be presented with a wizard that says, what's your AdSense account, what's your AdSense account ID number, put them together, okay, linked. If you haven't already created an AdSense account, it'll take you off to AdSense and allow you to create one there. So it really steps you through very easily. And then what you do is provide a bank number or an address where you want the check now, and that's it. You know, you're running out, so you're getting money. Excellent. Now, my website, which is about video games, and I update probably once a month, and it's just me and my mum who read it. Seriously, I won't show you the well, those of you who are at the developer day probably saw the analytics. It is like 2 users a week. But that makes much more than I thought it might have done. You know, not a huge amount, but it covers my hosting costs of $10 a month, just. So if you can generate a site that makes any significant amount of traffic, especially with this personalization feature, it's a real opportunity, at least to cover your hosting costs as a bare minimum. You know, build sites for free, nothing better than that. As I've already said, you can moderate content so you can see what people have posted, who's members, if someone's a pain, you can force them and remove them. And again, the advantage of this is, because they've got to join with one of these accounts, if you ban them, they can't just go straight back to registration, create another account, sign up and come back and start spamming them. They've actually got to have a valid account, which means they've got to authenticate with the service itself. There's also community data. So if you guys want to export this data, that's the most important thing. We want this to be free for you to take away and use in whatever services you want. So you can get your basic Friend Connect data in JSON or XML, and you can just import that into whatever tools you need. You can also download all the data where people have responded to questions. So where they've recommended things, where they've answered polls, where they've saved any kind of data within your site, you're able to pull that back. And of course, there's a full suite of APIs. There's an example site that's running, but I'm not going to take you there. I'm going to take you to the Friend Connect API documentation. This lives at code.google.com. The Getting Started guide, I'm not going to take you through that now because it's something to do in your own time. But the Getting Started guide gives you some easy steps to start implementing Google Friend Connect into your backend. The thing about Google and its APIs, how many of you have played with the Google Maps API? Okay. And how many of you found it pretty easy to get started with? That's the thing about Google. We try to create examples that in an afternoon you can lock yourself in a room with your computer and just cut and paste the example code onto local files and actually get something that works. You know, especially for the corporate market where someone wants to use a new technology. These days they can't afford to let their employees have 2 weeks to learn how to use something. They have to be able to pick it up in a couple of hours, understand the capabilities pretty quickly. And it's the same with Friend Connect. Once you start delving in, play with the example code, it should become pretty straightforward. But I'm going to show you an example website that's actually integrated Friend Connect. This is the Huffington Post. I hit login, and you'll see I can choose to sign up and create a native Huffington Post account if I want to. Or I can join with Facebook, I can join with Twitter, I can join with Friend Connect. I'm going to choose Friend Connect, even though I've got the other accounts. And I'm going to say I want to sign in with Google. Here is my username and password. And hopefully that will refresh. And you'll see that they haven't got an ugly gadget that kind of sits aside from the site and looks like it's separate. They've actually got native code. So they're using Friend Connect to pull, using the API, they pull my picture URL. They're pulling my name, so they know I'm Gerald Hibbert. And they've pulled limited information back. They've requested, if I was doing this for the first time, you'll see a request pops up to access my email address. And if I click yes, they then subscribe me to some of their newsletters based on my interests. But what's really interesting here is that now I have a native Huffington Post account, I just don't have a username and password. And where there would normally be username and password fields in the database, they just have authentication token. And so I sign in using Google Friend Connect. Friend Connect passes a token back to the website. You say this token guarantees that it's this user, and that's the only authentication piece that they need. So whenever they see that token in the future, they know to match it with this user. So all it is a secondary authentication mechanism, but it's a really, really powerful one. I haven't had to step through the reams of registration, I just join. And now, if they're really smart, they can start to share this information. Wherever they like. So maybe I'm spending time on reading this page. Why not pop up a message after 2.5 minutes saying, we noticed you've read this article all the way to the bottom. Do you want to share it with your friends? Click, distribute it. No effort on my part. It's actually just prompted me because it's worked out that I'm engaged. Okay, web expressions. Final bit. You'll be happy to know. How many people have seen the Skittles website? Excellent. You guys are going to love it. Here we go. Skittles.com. No one tells the truth. So this little box here, this is the Skittles website. That's it. Everything else is coming from, well, various different places. In this case, their homepage today is Twitter. But what they do is rotate their homepage. You'll see that if I click on Friends, where do you think that would go? Well, the internet connection's too good. But it goes to Facebook, because that's where the friends would be. If I click on Products, where do you think the product information is going to come from? Sorry?
eBay?
eBay? No. It is Wikipedia. Because that's where people have literally taken the time to create all the fruit flavors. So you can actually find out, which colours are what flavour. I've settled an argument this way. I lost. Media, videos, YouTube, pics, Flickr, as you'd expect. And again, it's just changing this in the background every time. The only page that they own and host is the contact, just because it's easier for them to have that hosted themselves and provide that mechanism. But by syndicating out a lot of their website, by just linking people to places that they're already engaging anyway, it's really, really powerful, because all they're doing is actually just aggregating these things together. Of course they've got a Facebook page, go join that. You want to be social, you want to talk about our friends, go meet our friends on the platform of their choice. You know, you want to see what people are saying, they could use the API and spend a whole bunch of time dragging data in, or they could just redirect to their Twitter page, or even redirect to the search for a hash skittles, whatever. The point is they're not reinventing the wheel. And once they find out what works, maybe one day they will actually implement some of their own features. But right now, this is plenty. And look, you can even minimize the website. Okay, the next one. We've seen the game website. This was, I don't know how many of you will recognize Mandy Moore, but they ran this video for a while, and it was awful. You came to the website, sorry, I love Gain if you're watching, but you came to the website and she's standing here going, I love the smell of Gain, and I remember I was 7 when I first smelled it. It was like, oh my God, it's awful. But, you know, it got people there. And so this is what I was looking for. This was the feature they had before. They were actually got her doing video there, and encouraged people to upload their own videos, saying how much they loved Gain. And there were hundreds of videos of people going, I love Gain too. But it worked for them, and it worked really well. It generated a lot of press. Boone Oakley. Have you guys seen this? This is quite fun. So you see that at the top I typed in Boone Oakley, right? It immediately redirected to a YouTube video. Now, if we scroll down a little bit. Now, these are quite fun because you can click at one of these and it'll actually jump to that section within the video. See? There we go. So I can jump ahead to Billy, and there's Billy there, because they're marking. More importantly, these are annotations down the side. So you click on these annotations and they can link to other YouTube videos. So they've actually built their site just using video. If you guys do remember this, go have a look at this Ruby Tuesday video. It's one of their marketing campaigns and it's really, really funny. But I won't ruin the surprise. You can click home and you can go back to the home page, and again it will take you through that. And even the loading thing is kind of silly and funny. It doesn't need to load. But it's really bold. It's basically saying, you know, YouTube can provide most of the functionality we want. And it doesn't have to be YouTube, it can be any platform. But if you're sitting there going, think about all these things we need to build to launch the site, take a step back. Look to see if other services are providing this functionality already. A lot of the time you can find bits of what you need elsewhere and save yourselves a lot of time and money. Final one, and this is kind of my favorite at the moment, is Sweet. If we search for Sweet, and go over here. What they've done is take Google Street View and Twitter. And all that happens is, it's not Street View at the moment, strangely. Let's go to London and see. There we go. Okay, so that one's nicely geocoded. What it'll do is find tweets that have happened nearby, overlay them on Google Street View. Pretty straightforward. You can click around the Street View and look at different places, and you'll just see tweets popping up with people. And obviously it's not in real time like the pictures, but the tweets are in real time. So it's a fun way just to put two completely disparate APIs together very, very easily. Like, beyond the design of this, it's not taken this guy a lot of work to build this service, I wouldn't have thought. There's a Street View API that's very, very easy to use. There's a Twitter API that's even easier to use. All you're doing is mashing them together and putting them on a web page. So some of the coolest websites don't even have to be, you know, stuff that you're building from scratch. It's just taking glue and putting it together. There's actually one more I'll show you, and this is, yeah, there we go. This is something I built, so it's really ugly. I apologise. But all it does is, and it's running on Google App Engine, so it's completely free for me to use, and it took me about 20 minutes to put together. All I've done is pull the trending terms from Twitter, pass those through the YouTube search API, and then embed the videos for each of the terms. And you'll see, you know, stuff like celebrity passwords, okay, no results. There's other stuff, Christmas, obviously, trending. It'll pull back the 2 most recent videos. And you can stick query strings in and play around with it. But the point is, in almost no time at all, taking these 2 APIs, plugging them together, and uploading them to a cloud service, I've built something that's, well, not getting that many hits, but that's because it's ugly as sin. If I had any design skills whatsoever, then I'd make the thing more beautiful and more attractive and encourage users to use it. But that's the point, it's these baby steps. Going back to the beginning, do little things one at a time. See how users interact and expand on that. Don't feel you have to build an amazing service from day one. That, you'll be happy to know, is the end of the presentation. So, are there any questions about anything we've talked about?
Okay, I have one question. If you think that it will be ever possible to force Facebook to join the Friend Connect stuff and to connect Facebook Connect into Friend Connect?
So that's a really good question. For those of you who didn't hear it, will Facebook ever join Friend Connect? So when we launched Friend Connect, we used the Facebook API, and they were the first button on that. So you could log in with your Facebook account to Google Friend Connect. Within 24 hours, they blocked us. They said that we were breaching their privacy terms and conditions, and we've asked them publicly in conferences and privately had our VPs talking, and we still haven't really got a clear reason. We're hopeful that definitely, yeah, because just the idea of having to choose something as opposed to just clicking is kind of frustrating. So fingers crossed.
I think the idea of Friend Connect is not very appealing to Facebook people because it takes away what they have. They built 350 million users, and now it's going to be open to everyone. So it's I think it's bad for their business, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to this one, this really is where their value lies. The fact that they've got these friends and they're theirs, and they've got the social graph. By allowing kind of aggregation across multiple networks, yeah, you're right. I think it terrified them a little bit, but I can't speak for them. If you can get an answer out of them, though, please try.
Okay, I will see what I can do.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? No? Okay, so I either did a fantastic job or an awful one. Hopefully it was fantastic. But thank you very much for your time, and hopefully it was useful.
Chceš něco říct?
Jo, určitě, ať se nám řeknou, kdo přišel tam na tu prezentaci.
Jo, jasně.
Já vám děkuji, že jste přišli. Ještě, já jsem na začátku trošku nezvládl ten úvod, tak bych rád řekl ještě něco a uvedl na pravou míru to, co jsem řekl předtím. Já jsem si tady k tomu dělal poznámky. My jsme tady úplně od toho, aby jsme dělali Google reklamu. Jo? To není primární úkol College User Group a není to ani primární úkol GUG.cz. A my si myslíme, že Google je takový centrum inovace stejně, jako třeba IT společnosti nebo univerzity, které se zabývají výukou technologií počítačových. A to, co Google dělá, tak do jisté míry mění tvář internetu a oni opravdu inovují hodně. To se každý týden třeba nový projekt a zkoušejí různé věci, pak se to použije nebo nepoužije. Je to hodně zajímavé a my chceme vlastně zjišťovat a zkoumat, co z toho, co Google dělá, je pro nás relevantní a jak to vlastně využít pro svoje vlastní potřeby a třeba i zkoumat, jak ty Google technologie si stojí v porovnání s nějakýma jinýma technologiemi. Další věc, proč je Google pro nás zajímavý. Já třeba osobně mám rád open source software a líbí se mi myšlenka otevřeného webu založeného právě na těchto technologiích. No a tradičně to bylo rozdělené tak, že korporace většinou podporují své vlastní proprietární řešení, zatímco open source řešení většinou jsou doménou buď jednotlivců nebo nějakých nadšeneckých skupin kolem toho open sourceu. A Google vlastně má takovou pozici někde mezi, že oni jsou jako korporace, která si hlídá ty svoje zdroje a svoje věci, ale zároveň hodně podporují open source projekty a hodně využívají open source technologie. Takže z tohohle důvodu si myslím, že právě by pro nás jako to spojení, že je zajímavý, ale nechceme to brát nějakým nekritickým úplně způsobem a přijímat všechno, co vlastně jako Google nám dává a pak jenom říkat všem lidem, jak je to skvělý. To není ten hlavní důvod, proč tohleto děláme. Tak, to bylo teda o tom Google. Teďka bych ještě rád něco řekl o dalším programu, vlastně, co chystáme, jak jako Unicorn College, Google User Group, nebo i pro celou Českou republiku, vlastně GUG.cz. My plánujeme tady na Unicorn College mít ještě další 3 přednášky v nejbližší době. Vlastně takový jsme pojali ambiciózní plán, že bychom vlastně chtěli sem někoho pozvat každý měsíc. Ještě nevím, jestli se nám to přímo podaří. Jo, a vy, co jste tady, třeba pokud někoho znáte, někoho, kdo dělá s Google technologiemi nebo s nějakýma dalšíma věcma, co souvisejí, tak samozřejmě jsme otevřeni veškerým námětům, nebo kdybyste sami, někdo z vás chtěl třeba přijít a ukázat nějakou case study z toho, co se děje u vás ve firmě, tak samozřejmě tohleto uvítáme, protože tyhle ty lokální Google skupiny by měly být právě o tady té spolupráci a aktivitě ze zdola. Jo, to znamená nedělat PR Google, ale spíš sami spolupracovat a snažit se a učit se od sebe a navzájem. Jo, takže ten náš program teda máme přichystaný nebo rozjednaný další 3 vlastně přednášky, co by se tu mohly objevit a jedna z nich teda bude, že přijdou lidi z CZ nám povědět o tom, jak funguje internet, tak to by mohlo být docela zajímavý, jo? My jsme se dozvěděli. No, potom bych chtěl pozvat někoho z firmy SimpleWay, kteří vlastně dělají agilní vývoj v Javě a jako jednu z hlavních technologií používají Google Web Toolkit a jsou schopní právě tady ten agilní vývoj s použitím Google Web Toolkitu vlastně prodávat enterprise zákazníkům. Takže oni dělají jako enterprise vývoj ve Web Toolkitu a zároveň agilně a snad i založili nějakou českou společnost pro certifikaci agilního vývoje v Javě, takže tohleto by mohlo být taky hodně zajímavý. A dál bychom chtěli pozvat vlastně vítěze Web Expo Startup Pitch. Miloše Lenocha, myslím, že tady je s náma, jo? Tak to bychom chtěli pozvat taky jedno, třeba na další měsíc, nebo na březen možná, aby nám řekl něco o tom, jak vlastně ten jejich úspěšný projekt, který taky používá některý Google API, tak jak vlastně na tom pracovali, jak ten celý vývoj probíhal a třeba jak jim ty Google technologie pomohly v jejich úspěchu. Tak to bylo za GUG.cz a poslední věc. Tenhle ten měsíc pořádá česká Google User Group online dílnu na téma Google Friend Connect. Janku, ty jsi to řešil nějak? Tady tu záležitost. Chewy nám se bavili?
Yeah, okay.
So please tell about the competition.
By all means. There is a competition to integrate or to put Friend Connect into either an existing site that you have or a demonstration site that you want to put together. And then pull content back from, I hope I'm saying this right, Zive.cz?
GUG.cz, jo.
So using something like the recommendation tool that allows you to pull content combined with a poll, or looking at ways to actually use the API to integrate data directly. I think we've got a month or 6 weeks, I'm not sure when the...
Mělo by to být někdy do půlky ledna, tuším. Závěrka, hlavní cena bude Samsung, mobilní telefon s operačním systémem Google Android, další ceny poskytne nakladatelství Computer Press, takže budete mít Vánoce potom, takový dodatek.
So I think I heard the word Android in there, yeah? There's a
Takže zadání a plus nějaký parametry budou na GUG.cz a pak zjevně nějaké věci budou na živě, protože tam budou jistě takové zajímavé dotazy, co to je a tak. Kdybyste cokoliv potřebovali, tak tam budou kontaktní maily na nás, případně i na Chewyho jako zadavatele, jednoho z hodnotitelů samozřejmě. Když tak se můžete podívat i na to, co se dělalo minulý, těch online dílen už bylo několik, poslední jsme dělali, no, přečtěte si sami určitě. Musím vás dohnat na naše stránky, nebo vám musíme si zvýšit rating.
Ne, je to fajn, třeba i ty výherci těch online prezentací, jako máte šanci na tady těch stránkách se prezentovat, my samozřejmě jako strašně rádi prostě ty vaše vítězné práce, když to tak nazvu, zveřejníme, takže to i takhle.
Jinak tam jako vzhledem tomu, že teďka takový přelomový rok, takže spousta věcí se objeví až jako v novém roce. Spolupracujeme i na řadě věcí pro školy, to znamená, budeme tady mít program, který se jmenuje Google Teacher Academy, kde to je vlastně série workshopů pro učitele. Připravujeme řadu věcí ohledně podpory vývojářů, to znamená certifikace vývojářů pro Google technologie a tak dále. Bude to hodně, takže doufám, že se leci to z vás zapojí jak do soutěže, tak do dalších aktivit. Jinak co se týče těch lokálních GUGů, kterých tady padla řeč, tak lokální GUGy vznikají pozvolna po celé republice, doufám, že jich budou desítky, objevily se v Ostravě už máme nějaké zárodky, takže jsou takový různý, většinou je to nabavený nějakou vysokou školu, nebo stejně jako tady v Praze. Takže kdyby někdo měl zájem, ozvěte se na nás, stačí info@GUG.cz a někam to dojde a někdo se vám určitě brzo ozve. Případně já mám mail janek@GUG.cz.
To je taky jednoduchý.
Taky jednoduchý.
A Janek odpovídá na maily, takže pište.
Jo, většinou ano. Dneska jsem přijel pozdě, takže jsem tady nebyl na začátku, protože jsem uvíznul na D1 v dešti. Takže tak.
Tak jo, tak já vám děkuju všem, že jste přišli, doufám, že nám zachováte přízeň a zapojíte se třeba do soutěže nebo jdete na nějaký další akce, který naše skupina bude pořádat. No a kdybyste na nás něco měli, tak nás tady chvilku ještě v okolí najdete. Takže děkuji vám, že jste přišli, děkuji Chewymu. Thank you, Chewy, for a great presentation.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Jinak Chewy už je v Praze na půl, na chvilku se sem přestěhujeme.
You're going to move in Prague, right?
I hope so.
Very nice to have you here.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you and see you later.
Jenom budu trošku otravovat s takovou organizační věcí, jestli byste si nám mohli odškrtnout, kdo tady byl, tamhle je prezenčka.